Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome to our second in our series of Leading Your Team into 2021, our second webinar with Alison Creed of the Coaching Creed. As always, going to give you a couple of minutes to join us. Sorry, just forgot to introduce myself, Dorothy O'Brien, Managing Director of CCMA. So you're all very welcome this morning. And I think I was just saying to Alison, excuse the wet hair, but I just had a walk, so that's my work-life balance for the day. But I think this topic is a huge topic for everybody at the moment, as we're in our third lockdown and all the challenges that brings with homeschooling and all of that type of thing. So I know Alison has some great tips and insights to share with us this morning. But as always, we want to make it as interactive as possible. So please put in any comments, observations, questions into the little chat box over there on the right-hand side, and I'll bring them to Alison's attention as and when they come through. And I know she's more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Also, just to mention that we record the webinar, and a copy of Alison's presentation will be available on the website. Normally it takes a day or two, so it'll definitely be there by Monday. And a copy of her previous presentation and recording are already up. So if you go onto our events page and scroll down past the calendar to previous events, you'll see that there. But it's 2 minutes past 11. We have a good crowd in the room, which is great. So Alison, I'm going to hand over to you, and thanks, Niamh, as always. And Alison, we'll talk to you throughout. Take care.
Super. Hi, everybody, and nice to see you all. Hopefully you can see my screen now. So today we're going to talk about work-life balance. Now, we're being bombarded by information on work-life balance, telling us what to do and how to get work-life balance. So hopefully today I'm going to be less telling you what to do and more discussing how we think about work-life balance and what it means for us as individuals. So our agenda, we're going to talk about work-life balance. It's constantly changing, both for each individual, but also for ourselves, because we, life happens, somebody gets sick, somebody loses their job. It could be, it doesn't even have to be big things like that. It could just be that you decide you want to make changes because you're not necessarily happy with how things are working now. We're going to talk about starting with you, because I'm assuming that if you're on this, that you're a leader or you want to be a leader. And so the importance of role modeling behavior that you would like your team to show. And then we're going to talk about the big thing around making change, basically, because if you want to change your work-life balance, you have to make changes to make that happen. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the psychology of habits, how important it is to understand for you yourself how you can make something into a habit, because we've all had scenarios where we've started something and then we fall away, and then we give ourselves so much grief about it, and we should do this, and we should do that. But let's talk about positively about how we can break habits and make habits. Then we're going to how to acknowledge and address competing requirements in terms of work-life balance. So you cannot, there's only so much of you. You've only got so much time. You've only got, you've got the level of skill, knowledge, and experience that you have. And so you cannot continue to add more and more work, more and more, your different roles, more and more things around your home, things around your family, things around work, things around your kids. You can't keep adding without taking things away, and you have to think about, not you have to, but it's good to think about how you can acknowledge and address those competing requirements for yourself and for others. And then I will give you some practical tips, but that's all they are. They're just tips. And if there's something in what I say that really that you gel with, well, then maybe that's what you need to go for. And if there's something that doesn't work for you, well, that's okay. So please, any questions or any answers to any questions that I ask, put them in the message box. Okay, so it's work-life balance is a moving target. I found this quote from Brené Brown. Any of you more interested in looking at mindfulness or doing more work on yourself? Brené Brown is wonderful. Anyway, this quote, she said, "Crazy busy is a great armor. It's a great way for numbing. What a lot of us do is that we stay so busy and so out in front of our life that the truth of how we're feeling and what we really need can't catch up with us." I know personally, I've been in this state quite a lot in my working life. And if you think about how we talk about work when we talk to each other, we constantly talk about, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm really busy. Oh, I'm up to my eyes. And it's almost like it's a badge of honor. So the reality of that is that we have to think about, is that us just numbing, is that us numbing ourselves to actually feeling what we're feeling? And that's a piece of work we can only do for ourselves. Okay, so what research tells us is that work-life balance is very personal. For some people, work-life balance is no balance at all. Okay, it's I am so passionate and in love with my work that nothing else matters, and literally that's all I do. And for other people, it may be what really matters to me is my sport, and I work to enable me to be able to spend my time on my sport. So it's, or it could be my family, or so the reality of it is it's totally different for each person, and that's okay. You don't have to have the same amount of time on each element of your life. And the other piece that's obvious is that it changes as you go through different life stages. So as a sort of young and carefree 20-year-old, it'll be different than when you're maybe in your 30s and your job gets serious, or maybe you have a family, or you know, or you've got to look after parents or whatever. So it's ever changing. We have many roles. That's how, and really work-life balance is how we prioritize those roles. You know, cleaner, mammy, daddy, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, worker, mentor, friend, all these different roles, and it's how we prioritize our many roles. And the reality is, as people, we want to have a rich life. We want to have different roles. And so the idea of just saying, oh, I'm only going to do one thing, you know, in the reality of it is that people are actually good at being more generalist, having many roles, but understanding that that means that there will be, you know, a need to prioritize. Work-life balance drives happiness and contentment. It's influenced by cultural norms. So the culture that you live in sets some expectations perhaps for yourself, or it might be the family that you're in. And so those cultural norms will influence what work-life balance looks like to you, but also, you know, there are certain things that we need to do because they're part of our culture. It's a key driver of staff engagement. And really what work-life balance is about is actually consciously living. In other words, it's about us making decisions and choices about how we want to spend our time to give us the life we want. Okay, so let's have a quick poll. How would you rate your work-life balance right now? Nobody's names are going to be on these, so please just put in wherever you think you are at the moment. There's no right answer. We just want to get a little bit of a gauge in the room.
The answers are coming in there now, Alison, so we might give it another 10 seconds.
Thanks. And the other thing about work-life balance is it changes, you know. You could do this on a Monday and it'll be different from what you did on a Friday. And that's just part of the human condition. We have our ups and downs. Okay, so we have 7% who are struggling. We've 71% who are surviving and 21% who are thriving. Okay, so we've got people in every range. And the interesting thing here is that you know, they're all different, and you know where you're at. And so we're going to now talk about, and I actually think those results are sorry about the light, it's very, very strong. Those results are extremely positive if we think about where we're at this moment in the world, in the sense of quite a lot of what we do outside of the work and home is actually gone for us at the moment. So I'm, you know, to all of you, thanks for being honest, but also, you know, it's pretty amazing that, you know, that the vast majority are surviving or thriving. And for those who are struggling, let's hope that you can get a couple of ideas from what we're talking about today. All right, so start with you. So this piece really, I'm sure some of you have come across this idea of the wheel of life, and the idea of the wheel of life is just that your life is broken down into different, well, you can break it down into whatever segments you want, and there's lots of different Wheel of Life tools that you can use on the internet, and it's basically a tool that helps you to look at where you're at now. But the idea of this is really just to start the conversation in your own head, and obviously this is something you can do with your team as well, but I would say get very comfortable with this yourself first, and then you can do it with your team. And there's lots of stuff online, and I've put some links here which would allow you to get an idea of not just how to do this for yourself, but how, when you've done it and you get comfortable with it, how to maybe talk about it, maybe even in a team meeting. So usually around your Wheel of Life, or your balance wheel, you have health, you have relationship, you've got work, sometimes it's called money, you've got intellectual stimulation, or that may be study, we've got creativity and play, that could be fun, and you've got your spirituality. And when people say spirituality, you go, oh, it's not necessarily religion at all. It might be for you, but it's also your sense of purpose. So why I'm here in the world. And for those of us who are a little bit older, our thoughts turn to what our legacy is, in particular around it, with our kids, or within a work environment. What are we leaving behind afterwards? What mark we've made on the world? So that's really what sense of purpose is. And it may be for you as a manager, your sense of purpose may be tied to, how you support other people, and how you grow your team. So the thing about this balance wheel is you can make these things, you can separate them. So here you can see rest and sleep was different to good nutrition and exercise. I like that personally, because I've got an issue with sleep and it's something I need to work on. But it may be that you break out the relationship piece into different things and actually put your rest and sleep in with your nutrition and exercise. It's just a tool. It's not, it's just something that helps you think. So this from Koi Fresco is balance is the key to everything. What we think, what we do, think, say, eat, feel, they all require awareness, and through this awareness we can grow. And I guess if there was one message I would say to you here is that that's the big issue, not issue, it's a big thing if we can just sit with that and just know that as we become aware of how we do things, and we question, different areas of our life, and look at how we can have better balance, or what makes us happy within those areas of life, that awareness will allow us then to make really good decisions about what's important and how we prioritize. Okay, so steps to identifying work-life balance for you. Okay, so this is just one tool. It's actually, when the slides are up, you'll be able to click into it, and it basically, you basically look at the different areas of your life and you score them about. First of all, you start off with where would you like to be, yeah? And then you look at where you are now, and then you talk about, okay, so what's my priority? So as an example, say if we take, let's see, if we take money, okay? So where you are now, if that is, say that's a 5. Or sorry, where you want to be, you might say, well, I want to be a 6, yeah, so I want to have enough money, but I don't need a hell of a lot of money. And then when you actually say, where am I now? Well, I'm at a 6, or I could even be at a 7. Well, then that's not an area you need to work on. Or if as an example, fun, leisure, and recreation, that's not something that you necessarily prioritize, or the physical environment around your home is not something that's a priority. Well, then that's okay. This is for you. Your goal state is what's important to you, and where you want to be with it. So once you've done that, pick a few easy changes to start. Yeah. So it may be, personally, it may be, say, if I was doing this now, my goal state as an example, would say my friends would be like, oh, well, I'd like that to be really strong. Maybe I want that to be like a 9. Live in someone's ear, but where I am now is a 6, because I haven't been proactively contacting them. So that might be a simple thing that I do, which is, every week I'm going to contact a different friend. So pick a few easy changes to start, but then it's important for you to follow with the changes that have the most impact. So the areas where are your top priority, so it may be, your health, maybe your top priority, and the difference between your goal state and your current state is big, then that's where you focus what changes you want. And then the other thing I'll say, which I say on all these calls, is let's go easy on ourselves, because the one big piece around making change is that we will falter, and and that's just part of being a person. So my tip here is to use the Wheel of Life exercise, either embedded or online. And if some areas don't float your boat, that's okay. Okay, so now let's look at another poll. How ready and willing are you to make changes now? And this is changes to your work-life balance. And again, no judgment on any of these. You know, you may just be here for informational purposes, and your work-life balance, you're happy with it. And you may just want to look at how you might be able to help others. So there's no judgment, and there's no worries on any of this. Hopefully this information will be there for when you need it, if you need it. Okay, how are we going, Niamh? Okay, great. I'm ready. Let's start now. 60%. Whoa, that's cool. I'll start when I have more time. Again, absolutely cool. Some of us are really busy, and I know I talked about some, you know, be careful of being of working yourself into a state where you are really busy, but there are some people who are literally really busy. I know I need to, but I can never stick to a plan. It's 33%, and nobody said I'm okay, thanks, which, gosh, thanks guys, that's really good. So whatever the situation is for you, I know for me, I'm usually, I want to do it, but I can never stick to a plan. So we're now going to talk to how can we stick to a plan. So habits. So let's talk about habits. So they are the secret to lasting change. And the reason why they're the secret to lasting change, because when habits become ingrained, then we don't have to spend our time and energy thinking about them, and they just become part of our lives. And if that habit serves you and makes you feel good, well, then it's just really nice to have those things that you do for yourself, and perhaps habits also that you do that make other people feel good, and they're just part of your life. And so you don't have to constantly do the looking around of, do I have time to do this? It's one of the reasons why, you know, we all know that we should exercise more, but unless we get into the habit of exercising, what happens is in the moment we can always find reasons why we don't exercise right now. And that's why if we have the habit of exercising, then we just do it, and it's not, and we don't have that internal discussion with ourselves about whether we have other things that are more important in that moment, because that's one of the things that causes stress in our lives, is constantly questioning, you know, whether we need to, you know, whether we can do that right now. So habits can be really good. There's a dark side to habits too, because there are some habits that we have that don't serve us and that don't necessarily make us feel happier or add to our contentment quotient. So let's just talk about, why is it that changing a habit is so hard? Well, they become unconscious and automatic. So a lot of times, I'm sure we all have habits where we don't even realize that we're doing them, and it's hard to break. I had a really bad habit of saying all the time. And when I went and moved and lived in Australia, I think in Ireland people were, maybe people didn't want to tell me that I had it, but also it's probably more acceptable because lots of us do it. But there it was like, you know, I just had, my work colleagues were just going, you gotta stop this, you gotta stop this. And boy, was it hard, but you can. So also they are giving us something emotionally or physically, our habits, and that's an interesting one. That's more about maybe subconsciously they're giving us something. So the habit of, you know, perhaps having a cigarette after you have a meeting, or it could be having a drink at 5 o'clock at the end of the day. I'm not trying to say that they're bad things, but you know, but habits that perhaps don't serve you, they do give us something emotionally. Like as an example, say you have a habit that if somebody challenges you automatically go to challenges you about something that you've done, you automatically go to it's not fair, and you push back and you try and think of something that they've done that isn't right. So what is that giving us emotionally? And usually, like in those scenarios, what it's giving us is it's helping us maybe to create some safety, because actually we're quite fearful of someone telling us we're not good enough because we've already got it in our heads. So it's giving us something, and that's an interesting run of what is this habit actually giving us? What it could be it's providing us with protection. You know, it could be, you know, like as an example, if you overeat, that's maybe it's giving you something emotional. So anyway, the changing habits is hard because it does take time to change a habit. The other really big piece here is we believe our habits are part of who we are. And a classic one here is, and for those of you who've never been a smoker, you might not get this and you go, that woman is crazy. A lot of us smokers actually believed that being a smoker was part of who we were. It was part of, you know, like I remember when I wanted to give up smoking for so long, but I saw myself as a smoker. I saw that the person that I was a smoker. I used to meet people through smoking because you'd have to go out, and there was, and I think for me it was something got to do with, oh, I'm a bit rebellious, and you know, and I don't want to be seen as being, you know, straight-laced. So it was really part of my identity. I thought it was part of my identity. Is it part of my identity? No, I don't smoke anymore, and it's not part of my identity. But that's how hard it is to change a habit, because we sometimes think we won't be who we are if we change this habit. Okay, I'm just aware of time here, so I'm going to go through a little bit quicker. So we also can fear how others will perceive us. Creating new habits is also difficult because it does take time. They say 21 to 40 days to start a new habit. Other people say it might take a little bit longer, but I think that's pretty good. Our personal attitude to change, which I'm going to talk about. And then what's the risk versus reward? What are we getting from the new habit? And also, you know, if we say I want to read a book every week. Well, you know, if we don't have the time to do that, well, then we're just setting ourselves up for failure. And then the other piece that's important here is we fear how others will perceive the changes. So if we change, we fear that people will perceive us as being maybe judgmental on them because they haven't changed, or will see us in a different light. So take an inventory of some of your habits and try to identify what they're giving you and what they're costing you. Is the balance in your favor? So this is a piece that I'm not going to go into a lot, but it might help some of you who find it difficult to create new habits. So motivation to create change is driven by what works for you. We're all different. So some people, they will make change because they just want to know what should be done. So tell me how to do it and I'll do it. Other people want justification. So they want to know why they're doing it. You'll notice this with people in your team. I want to know why I'm doing it. Once I know why I'm doing it and I agree with why I'm doing it, I'm hell for leather gone. There's other people which we call obligers. They need accountability. So I know sometimes myself, when I decide to change something and I decide to do a new habit, I need to tell people about it big time because I need that accountability. Then there's others, rebels, and they want the freedom to do something their own way. And we've all come across these, and a lot of the times we'll see this in our kids. So they don't want to be told how to do something, and they want the freedom to do it their own way. And sometimes they get in their own way, even though they know that this is what I should do, or this is what I want to do. If everyone else is telling them to do it, well, then that rebel comes out in them and they go, no, I'm not going to do it. So it's important for you to know yourself and to know your team around what their tendencies are, because you can use those tendencies and that knowledge to overcome your own resistance to change. So I know personally, this really helped me in terms of finding the route to getting myself to change. So, and I'm not going to say necessarily what type of person I am, but anyway. So I've got a link in here and you can go and read more about this. It's really, really good. And it's just, if this is something that resonates for you, go for it.
Alison, just to say, we've 5 minutes.
Yeah. So if this resonates for you, just have a read. And even if it doesn't resonate for you, you might want to think about it maybe within your team. But it's a really interesting way, because if you identify what your motivation is, then you can, so in other words, if you're a questioner, well, then you can start to work on that and say, okay, so I need justification for why I'm going to go for, you know, a walk every day, or why I'm going to give myself a digital detox. Why am I doing it? And that will really help you then to actually do it. So creating change, I guess the big thing here is you can do it. We do it. We do it all the time. Look at the change that you create when you maybe have a new kid, you know, our whole world changes, and we can do it. We can absolutely do it. So get clear on what you want to change, understand your tendency for action and use it. Set realistic goals, actions and rewards. So, you know, that's the piece around celebrating success along the way. And also, you know, having one huge goal can be quite overwhelming, but breaking it down can be really good. Include with your goals how you're going to get there, and make sure you reward yourself. And again, I'm just putting it here, be kind to yourself. And the other interesting piece is if you try something and it doesn't work, you don't have to continue to do it. You know, try something else. Try and be a little bit sort of relaxed about it and curious about, oh, I wonder, will this new habit give me what I want? And sometimes it won't. Okay, so managing competing requirements. So here, I'm just going to go through this. I'm sorry, I'm going to rush through this. It's acknowledge that there is a conflict and get granular. In other words, I am having a problem managing the time that I spend in work and the time that I spend with my friends, or, you know, whatever, or I'm having a problem with managing my health but still looking after my family. So you look at the options for each. Now, there are options for every issue that you have, okay? And these are some options that I think we sometimes, well, anyway, look, outsource. So if there's something that's taking up a lot of your time, yeah, you'll have to look at how it's taking up. If there's something that's taking up a lot of your time, is there any way that you actually don't need to do it? Can you outsource it? So if you're working from home, looking after your kids, can you outsource meal prep to someone else? You know, if there's two of you working in the home and you're trying to do everything, realistically, you don't have to do everything. Can you outsource it to someone else? Can you delegate it to someone else? Can you delay it? Well, obviously with food, you can't delay it, you have to eat every day. But, you know, if there's a room that needs to be painted, can you delay that? If there's a project that needs to be done, can you get more time? Can you stop doing it altogether? So if there's stuff that you're doing that's taking up your time and that isn't giving you anything, well then can you stop it? And then can you replan it, reprioritize it, evaluate your options and agree a decision, make a decision about what you're going to do. Involve the right people. So at home, involve, you know, if you're having an issue with not being able to spend enough time at home or not being able to spend enough time at work, talk to your family, even your kids, talk to you. How can we do this better? Set boundaries for yourself and your team. Something's got to give. You cannot keep adding to the barrel that is your tasks. Something's got to give. It'll spring a leak. And brainstorm. So when you're brainstorming, either with yourself, with your family, with your friends, with your team, the important piece here is to encourage the devil's advocate, and the devil's advocate might say, why are we doing this at all? You know, so it could be, we've got to get that report out, you know, at 5 o'clock every week. And the devil's advocate say, well, why are we doing it at all? Like, who's reading the report and what is it used for? So encourage a devil's advocate in meetings, particularly meetings when we're talking about how we're going to prioritize stuff and what we're going to plan to do. Give someone the role of devil's advocate, because it's hard to be the devil's advocate because people automatically sort of feel like they're attacking. So if you share around that role and you ask them to play the role, well, that can be good. And then the other question that I think is really important to ask is, can we do nothing? Can we actually just not do anything around that? It's a bit like, stop, can we do nothing? You know, sometimes we get ourselves into a heap around, we have to work on all these different areas. And sometimes it's like, well, can we just do nothing? Can we just have patience and see what happens? So this is not an added extra. This is the real work of managing yourself and others. Managing competing requirements is not sort of, oh, I can do that at the end, I can do it as an extra. This is the real work of managing yourself and others. In other words, acknowledging that there are these competing requirements. Okay, so practical tips.
And Alison, we're just at half, so I know you're.
Okay, I'm going to go through this in 60 seconds. My practical tip for fostering work-life balance is share one question with your family, friends, colleagues, or your journal, depending on who you are. And this is one you could do around your dinner table with your kids. What are you grateful for? What made you happy today? What made you think? What made you laugh? What surprised you today? And the beautiful thing about these questions is that it encourages relationship, and also it gets you out of yourself and it gets you thinking big picture. Boredom is good for us and our kids. The research says so. So, you know, the guilt around, oh, my kids are bored, or maybe even I'm bored. We need boredom in order to allow us to be creative. Perfection intimidates people. This is something that we do not acknowledge enough. We think we want to be perfect in every area of our lives, but do you know something? That perfection intimidates managers, co-workers, and family. And if somebody is perfect and is doing something absolutely perfectly, we are not drawn to them. We actually feel like, okay, well, I can never be that as perfect as that, so I'm not even going to try. And that's very important for parents and managers to understand. It's vulnerability that builds relationships. So honesty, being open, being authentic, and saying, I need help, you know, I can't do everything, is actually how you build relationships. If you get to know yourself and what works for you, everything is easier. Look at how you spend your time and what benefit that gives you, and try saying no without rationalizing. This one almost, I can say, changed my life. I used to say yes to everything. And then if I said no, I always had to rationalize it. I can't do that because I'm doing that, and I get myself into a heap in rationalizing. But you know, if somebody asks you to do something, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be really annoyed if you say that you can't do it, particularly in a work scenario. So you can say, no, sorry, that doesn't work for me at the moment. Now, if they, you know, you can have a conversation about it, but I just would say to you, try it. And then the other tip I have is barter to do more of what you like. And that bartering, maybe as an example, I love cooking. I adore cooking. And there's other pieces in my life that I don't so much like. So I barter. I cook for friends and they do other things that I don't like doing for me, or things that I need. And you could do that within your family. You can also do it within your work cohort or your friends. Another barter I've heard about is, sorry, I'm going to finish on this one, is where I've got a friend who's got kids who she can't do the maths with. She just can't do their maths with them, but she's really, really good at history. So she's done a barter with another friend. So she gives one friend, she does history with their kids, and her friend does maths with them. Barter is another way of getting some work done. Okay, and that's the final tip. There we are. Any questions?
I'm conscious of time, so what I was going to say earlier, if we'd had time, I was going to ask the people who are thriving to share some of their tips with us.
Sorry, Dorothy. That would
have been nice. But no, I think that's really great. And I think all of us, it's just a struggle at the moment. Just, you know, the work life, the fact that we're so restricted in what we can do outside of working from home in terms of doing things is probably limiting all of us. But I think some great insights there, Alison. So thank you so much for that. Sorry, I see a quick question, so give me one sec. Nicola's just saying thanks Nicola. So obviously the presentation will be available, and just to remind that we have 2 more events with Alison over the coming weeks, every second Friday. So our next 2 are on, let me just bring it up, balancing the individual versus the team needs. So that's this day, 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that we have team coaching. But also just to say, we have a lot of events taking place in February. So we have, I think, 6 events. If you go onto the events page at the moment, you'll see them there. And we have a really good event on Wednesday with John Reardon from Shopify, who is a really guru on remote working and all that he's doing there. So hopefully somebody will tune in for that. And we have a couple of events with Avaya, and we also have an event with Indeed on the labour market and how things are looking. So all of those details are up on the website now. Please feel free to go in and book your slot, and we'd be delighted to see you there. But as always, Alison, thank you so much. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just say one final thing? I was in the title of the thing, I was going to talk about resilience, but actually I've moved resilience, and it's going to be around coaching your team, because I think it fits better. So I will cover it.
Okay, brilliant. I'm looking at my hair; it doesn't look any better dry than it was wet, so I badly need a haircut. But anyway, thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's the last day almost of January. We're getting there slowly but surely. And good to see everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, Niamh, as well. Take care. See you, Alison.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.